Welcome to What CEOs Talk About. Do you wonder what CEOs talk about behind closed doors? How they bring their vision to reality? How do they overcome and succeed through adversity? We share that and so much more with each episode. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, this is Martin Hunter, your host of What CEOs Talk About show, where we talk about translating strategies into frontline operations. Past guests include my bestie, Dominic Rubino, Profit Tool Belt, Jeremy Weiss, Inspired Insider, Mark Raffin, Negotiations Ninja, Matthew Newman, Alpha Foods. These guys, look them up, listen to some of the podcasts that we've done with these guys. This episode is brought to you by Urgio. Urgio is Latin for to urge, a strong desire to drive change, stimulate thought, incite feelings, encourage action. Urgio provides fractional COO services to move you through growing pains so that your company can flourish and profit. Justin, have you had the opportunity to work with visionary CEOs as a lawyer?
Best part of my job, I do every day.
Good. So you know how important it is for these guys who have great vision to be able to integrate that great vision into daily operations. How do you monetize, right, those visions? So if you're a VC, you own a business, or you're part of a board member and one of the companies that you own has this visionary CEO, great idea, and you need an integrator, call Urgio, because that's what they do. You can get a hold of them at urgio.ca, urgeo.ca, or email them at info@urgio.ca. These guys have worked with a multitude of companies in SaaS, CPG mining, transportation, from itty-bitty little startups to all the way to big, giant, large multinational corporation. Today's guest, Justin Levine, the best damn lawyer I know. Well, he's my lawyer. So Justin is now a partner. Go ahead. It's coming into.
Recently bought half my firm, so it's myself and another lawyer, and we're going to obviously change the name to my name. Add my name to it. Well, honestly, that was a big conversation, friendly. But yeah. Do we do the old school lawyer law firm? We just keep adding last names, and it looks like yes.
All right. So partner at. So tell me what the future name is going to look like.
The future name is going to be Golbey Levine Lawyers and Advisors. Right now, it's still Golbey Law Corporation, and we want to tie it into some sort of launch event or tie it into a marketing event post-pandemic, hopefully, so we can have some martinis or something.
Okay, and then for Justin's intro, I asked Justin. I was like, "Hey, how do you want me to introduce you?" And I was like, "Oh my goodness!" I said, "So hold on, everybody. Justin's got some really interesting facts. Tell me about diving. Go ahead. I'll let you loose."
So my undergraduate degree, I got it at UVic, and I did it in anthropology, did a bit of archaeology, was lucky and got to go on an underwater archaeological field dive. First off, I tricked myself into thinking that's a real job. Turns out it's not. And on the dive, underwater, I found a piece of Roman pottery on, it's the island of Majorca off the coast of Spain. And it's sitting in a museum right now. I don't think it has my name on it, but.
Oh, damn. Found by Justin Levine.
Found by, I wish.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That is awesome. So like all the other guests, what we do is we put the meat in the middle. And today, you guys are going to have fun listening to this. So today's topic of choice from Justin is the power of negative thinking, positive pessimism. With that being said, let's rock and roll. Justin, so why did you pick this?
It's a struggle. I've in my short life, I've realized that, especially my law practice, I think has brainwashed me into identifying risk, managing that risk, and a lot of non-lawyers view that as a negative exercise, an exercise in not positive growth. And I'm not a social scientist here. This isn't a PhD dissertation. This is just my thoughts. I feel there's so much power in being a pessimist. The stupid sayings that illustrate this would be, if you always plan for the worst, when the worst thing happens, you're prepared. Yes. If something good happens, what a pleasant surprise. And that's pessimism in my mind.
Yes. True.
Subjective definition there. If you're an optimist and you're, oh, don't be such a negative Nancy, don't be such a pessimist, everything's going to be fine. Well, what if it's not? Then you're not prepared and you're scrambling and you're going to probably have more anxiety, more stress, and not get the end goal you want. So in my opinion, I can accomplish my goals and move my life in a more positive direction by thinking, what if it doesn't go the way I want? Let's plan for that. If it goes the way I want, sweet. But if it doesn't, let's try to add some almost insurance policies to my goals. And that is you do that by being a pessimist. And people hear the word pessimist and they think negative and sad and bad and, power of negative thinking.
Yeah.
But
you can do it. Just think positive and just work hard and you'll get it. So listen very wisely to good counsel. Risk management. And so basically what we're talking about with Justin is how do you do proper risk management, right? So always under promise and over deliver. So keep going. So tell us, Justin, tell us about you. Tell us your story. Where'd you come from? Like, why you a lawyer? Every kid dreams about being a lawyer, of course.
Yeah, well, makes the parents happy. That's for sure. I have 2 older brothers and I win. I win.
You get more gifts at Christmas or during Hanukkah, right?
What parent doesn't want their kid to become a lawyer? Going over my life like a Wikipedia article, like a biographic way, from the Tri-Cities, born here. My family's all from Winnipeg. I have older brothers. They're all born in Winnipeg. My family moved here and I was
moved here. Here's Vancouver.
Here's in Lower Mainland, Vancouver. Yep. I forgot the internet. And moved around. My mom was a realtor for a little bit. She was a home inspector for a while. She was a salesperson. Both my parents were always in sales and changed jobs a fair amount. They taught me a lot, indirectly about business and about life and making decisions. I didn't grow up wealthy. I would say middle class. Average middle class thing. But my parents took out second mortgages. They put us in private school for elementary school for some strange reason.
Wow.
And went too heavily in debt and had to pull that out. So I credit those experiences with who I am today. And it sounds a little cold-hearted, but it is about money. And it opened my eyes to a world of wealth and the opportunities that can bring, and the downsides as well. But hypocritically, I'm being an optimist at this point, and I, seeing the value there, looking back at my family and extended family, and we're not those people, and nothing's wrong with that. But it made me a little hungry for it, a little thirsty for it, and made me realize, we'd go on family trips with friends we met at the private school that were much more opulent than we could normally afford. But if, hey, it's somebody's sailboat they own, they can sail us around it sort of exposed me these opportunities of my young life that made me want it and realize cold-heartedly, I need money to get that.
Yeah.
I want to have money. And I learned that maybe too young, but I focused on that. And, the joke about anthropology tied into that was a passion of mine, still is. History, archaeology, culture, love it. But I think it's foolish to think that I didn't also want to make money. And that's how I fell into law quite quickly, because I assumed it would be much more lucrative than it really is in practice.
Indiana Jones, right? Oh, I'm going to find a statue of gold and I'm going to be a gajillionaire, right?
Yeah, that easy. So I went to UVic, did my undergrad in anthropology, found some pottery, and then I stayed at UVic, did my law degree, worked, did some legal clinic work out of the courthouse in Victoria, some criminal defense work. Didn't love it. I articled, just like an apprenticeship for lawyers in a kind of a rural community, rural city called Abbotsford, locally here, doing mostly family law, estate litigation. My principal had a contract with the Ministry of Family and Children. So we represented the government taking babies away from their parents.
Oh, wow.
And I was in court as a young lawyer, getting extreme exposure. It was mostly provincial court, a little bit of Supreme here and there, but it got a lot of exposure to court because in law school, I'm a litigator. I'm going to court. I'm gonna be like a sexy TV lawyer. It's gonna be hot. I hated court. Just couldn't stand it. And I realized my whole life I liked business. My dad owns a business now and been involved with it.
So what did you not like? What did you not like about litigation?
I don't know anymore. It's been so long, and I go to court from time to time. Don't get me wrong. What I didn't like is that, again, this is hypocritical to my positive pessimism thing, but there was too much, when you're suing somebody, rarely at the end of the day is everyone happy. Even if you win. Yeah, you get a court order saying you won, you still got to get them to pay you. And so it's just a lot of anger, raw emotion and sadness and dismantling things rather than my current role now is as a solicitor. Everybody who comes and leaves my office is generally happy because we're buying businesses, we're selling, we're growing, we're doing reorgs and closing big deals. And it's fun and it's exciting and it's fast paced. But, the courtroom, I just found like, good. Yeah, we crushed them. Sweet. Haha. Enjoy Christmas. It's just not
it's very human, right? There's a lot of human emotions and attachment to that. Yeah.
And I struggle with that. I mean, I think I definitely didn't foster enough emotional intelligence in myself. That's a skill I've recognized as an adult now that I need to foster a little more patience with other people's emotions. And when I was in court, I just didn't have, who cares? What's the fact? What are the facts? And I think I've matured a little bit since then and understood that emotion is very valuable. I once heard, I can't remember who it was. It was an old book of some sort, Stoicism or something pretentious like that. And,
pretentious.
I love Stoicism, by the way.
I was gonna say pretentious. Oh, class A pretentious right here.
Well, they'll be like, Seneca quoted in. I can't quote the
dates. No.
Oh, and I can't even remember that exact thought, but it was something along the lines of treat your emotions like trusted friends and advisors.
Yes.
Right. Listen to what your emotions have to say because they're there for a reason, but don't blindly follow them.
Correct.
Just like, and tying it into being a lawyer, that's what I tell my clients all the time. Listen to me like a trusted advisor. Don't blindly follow what I say. Question me, challenge me, disagree with me. My job is to identify risks, help you manage them and accomplish your goal. My job is not to say no, don't, and that's how I view my role, at least.
Lesson number 1, right? Counsel. It's not dictatorship. It's not, don't lean on your lawyer to tell you what to do. Lean on your lawyer to provide you with advice. The better relationship. How long, Justin, we've been working together? Jeez, I can't remember.
You and I?
Yeah. 5 years?
Yeah, I'm pushing 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years. So you got a relationship going with your advisor. And that is where I suggest for a lot of people to find that partnership, that if you are going to be a CEO or if you are a CEO, you're going to have lots of adventures in life. And to have key people that are surrounding you, having a good EA, having a good accountant, and having a good legal counsel. Not to say lawyer, but legal counsel. That's what you're looking for. And somebody who can tell you, it's like a business coach for anybody. It's like, hey, you're doing this well, you're not doing this well. Here's the risk. But it's you hold the paycheck. You hold the bag to making that final decision. Right. So
couldn't agree more with you.
Yeah.
I mean, you're hitting on a lot of topics that I'd love to just dive into. I mean, one of them is, the other lawyers, in my office and my colleagues and friends, lawyers love to complain about being lawyers. I don't know why. It's just part of I don't know. And I fall into that trap too. And lawyers also have egos to manage. And I think that's because, the joke I make with my wife, this isn't true. I'm making this new caricature. I spend all day being paid hundreds of dollars an hour to make high stress decisions for people seek me out to say, Justin, what do you think? And it's hard to not have that affect your ego. But,
yes.
It goes in, and I must be right about other things too.
Correct.
And it takes an active mind and a lot of time to talk yourself off that ledge to say, no, I am a subject matter expert, but about this very limited focused thing, and it doesn't spread out into everything in life.
Oh, damn. That's lesson number 2, number 3. Like, that's very applicable to CEOs and entrepreneurs. Just because you're leading it doesn't mean that you're good at everything, right?
Another lawyer on a similar topic says the joke that the most valuable thing a law student learns when they graduate is just how educated or how smart the uneducated public is. You go through law school and you think you have such an ego and I did all that, and then you get into private practice at least. That's
Yeah.
all I can speak to is private practice.
Yeah.
And, you know, and you're dealing with your clients and you realize you think that they're coming to you because you have all this knowledge they want. And often that's not the case at all. You know, so you made an interesting comment that I wanted to say about legal counsel.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what you meant by that, but how I interpreted that was I love to say legal counsel because that's how I view my role. And, you know, I am a lawyer, but when I say lawyer, in my mind, in my role as a solicitor doing deals, it's a very mechanical thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's almost like somebody comes and wants to buy a product from you. Give me one incorporation, please.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we treat it like that. We flat rate because that's what the public wants.
Yeah.
You know, but the counsel aspect is where, you know, I like incorporating. I don't get me wrong, you know, grind through 50-page contracts all day. But where the real passion is the counsel. Is calling up Martin, having Martin call me, and us just brainstorming. Got a big whiteboard back here, and I'm charting things out. I'm on the phone with you. That's what I love. But sometimes I notice a lot of my clients, they're high emerging industries and high growth and fast growth, and sometimes it could be very lonely for the CEOs. And if they might not even be a CEO. You know, they might just be a one-man company and have all the hats on.
Yeah.
Part of it is people just like to call and walk. They don't ever listen to what I say, but they want somebody who can call them out once in a while, you know, and brainstorm and just shoot the shit with people. That's my favorite part. And that's counsel to me.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, rather than review this contract. Yeah, there's a counseling element there, but really what the client wants is a yes or no. They want a product out of you. They don't want that service.
I think that the mindset is different. When you're building something, you want counsel, right? You're building, you're leading something. It's when you get in trouble, you say
the lawyer, when the lawyer wants to be involved. And so there's this parallel world that I always talk. I've probably even said it to you in the past, not to disclose solicitor client privilege, but this privilege, this parallel, these two parallel lines of like my interpretation of the law, because no lawyer knows the law objectively. There's always a level of interpretation and subjectivity. So my interpretation of the law is here and the implications. And then there's like business reality. In other words, the real world.
Yeah.
And often they touch, and sometimes the real world isn't doing something legally, but it is the way it is. And that's going back to your investment question. It's more that second one where I see documents that have, even from well-established people who, in my opinion, you should know this. I'm surprised you don't know this. And you realize, no, it's my job to know it. It's my job to advise them on what to do. But these deals move so quickly, depending on, especially in the startup world, how hot startups are going, right? Startup market is like real estate. There's seasons, right? There's
really?
Times, well, not really like the same, not as aggressive as real estate. It's more, cyclical, I guess.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's times when there's more hot startups and less investors, and there's times when there's more money and less startups. And those completely change deal terms and change deal structures.
Supply and demand.
Supply and demand. And so, for example, people might have heard of a SAFE or a simple agreement for future equity. They're very popular. They come in and out of fashion. Those are great when, there's the incubator style businesses and there's a hot startup that's vying for attention and investors want to move quick. Does delay valuation, let's just throw some money on and get to the first of the queue. And the SAFEs are great for that. But then sometimes people get it into their head that that's just how a deal looks. And they watch the show where they were involved in their previous startup sale, and they just think that that's how deals work. And they don't realize the unlimited flexibility we have. And people don't tell me the goal. And so that's the mistake people make, is they just give me documents, a term sheet, or an idea of investment and say, what do you think? And that's lawyering. That's saying draft a subscription agreement, draft this, and I'm happy to do it. But the counsel relationship, which takes years to develop, should come earlier. And it should say, here's the company. How do we strategize? I talk about budget, how much you want to spend on due diligence, and let's dive into it. And what are your goals here? Control, dividend, cash flow. You're going to do another fundraise. Let's strategically plan that now and make sure the deal reflects that. And the term sheet as well, rather than here's the term sheet and now I got a bit of egg on my face. I have to go back to say, yeah, I am so-and-so's lawyer, but I wasn't involved in drafting the LOIs or the term sheets. I'd like to unilaterally change all of them to be way more stacked in my client's favor. That's a tough conversation to have.
Absolutely. I think that a lot of people are afraid of lawyers, right? They come to business and they go, I talk to my old investors, like some of the older crowd that I've gotten, they say sometimes lawyers are sales prevention team. So they go, they're let's not get the lawyers involved because they'll
kill the deal.
They'll kill the deal, right? So to that being said, a lot of people are afraid of lawyers because they have not taken that time to build that relationship with their counsel. And they go, give me this and give me that. And they forget that a deal is a deal. We had Mark Raffin, Negotiations Ninja, who said, take the time to plan your deal. Be creative with it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just like you mentioned, right? Where do you want to be with this deal? What is it going to benefit you? What's benefiting them in this deal? How do you make sure that you create a win-win situation? Too many times people, in my opinion, go to the lawyer and they go, hey, I want to get this done. Okay, so very transactional and not transformational, which is exactly the same as leadership.
I like that.
So,
that's going on the website.
Oh, you can be transactional with people. I want you to do this. I pay you, so therefore do this. Where if I facilitate and elevate, which is no different in the legal environment. Hey, let's facilitate and elevate these two legal entities. There's a reason why you're building a contract, is because you want to gain something and they want to gain something from you. You want to exchange something or you want to build something together. So why not facilitate the process and elevate it? And that's where counsel comes in, because at the end of the day, a good contract means that you've talked everything out before. There's no surprises. Mm-hmm. That's what I think. I mean, I've had a bad end of a contract, and Justin helped me out with that, right? So we had the contract, we had everything. Justin helped me, good counsel. We drafted this contract, we went to it, and then the guy decided not to pay me. So on one side, regardless if you have a good contract, is have you had the time and backtracking on this event where I went wrong, and the learnings that I had is that the guy was all about now, I want, instead of me taking the time to say, okay, hold on a second. How is this build up? How are we going to get there? And finally, we had to litigate. But anyways, we got there. So all to say that being transformational in building that contract, regardless if it's people or entities or legal entities, that's the way to go, right? That's my opinion.
I couldn't agree more with you. I mean, by way of a different sort of anecdote or story, often, and I'm not trying to disparage anybody, but speaking freely.
You are a pessimist. Let's face it, right? It's just we've gone down this trail. We have to bring it back to pessimism, because that's what
well, I'm good at that. Often clients that I don't have a deep relationship with, and when I say deep relationship, really what I'm getting at is, for lack of a better word, knowing your risk tolerances, knowing your appetite for risk in a certain deal. Let's say you always do a certain kind of contract that I do review for you all the time. At some point, you just don't even tell me anything. You just send me the contract. I know what to do. I know your goals with intellectual property and IP and indemnities and assignability and all the touch points on whatever contract that might be. I can act almost as an external like a fractional in-house for some people. And that's enjoyable. But it takes a long time to do. And it's high risk too, in some ways. But on the other hand, that's one end of the spectrum. And then the other end of the spectrum, these clients that you're starting a relationship with, maybe they just got their first contract. Maybe it's their first lease, big commercial lease. So they're going to go lease a spot to have their shop or something.
Sure, yeah.
And they've never really interacted with a lawyer before. Maybe they bought a house or something, got a will, but that's really it. They don't know, and this is a problem of any service provider, I think. They don't know what questions to ask me. True. It's just like when I'm building my first house, but if I was, I don't know how to instruct the builder on what to do. I don't build houses. You tell me what questions to ask you. And it's the same thing for all these things, and law is no different. So I get questions like, can you give it a quick review? Well, it's a 35-page document. What do you mean? Every word, and this sounds so facetious, but every word has a meaning.
Oh, yeah.
Every sentence has a legal effect. If you want me to make you understand the agreement, is that what you're asking? Do you want to know what risks you're taking? Because the only way I can do that is literally to read the agreement aloud to you and explain things and rephrase things as we go. And nobody wants to spend 3 days doing that. Really, I think what they're saying is, you've read hundreds of these. What's normal? Is this good? And it goes back to what you're saying about, I don't know your goals. I don't know your intent for the business. It's hard for me to give you advice, good advice, unless I know you and your goals and your business. And it's hard to get there. And so you kind of just have to do these contract reviews and help people structure their businesses and see if you get along. And as you work together, maybe they don't hire you for the next project, maybe they do. And that's how you get from lawyering to counsel. But
Yeah.
I always struggle with this idea. People have a right to, and this is where it gets pretentious, people have a right to understand their contract. In fact,
True.
in my opinion, I want the CEO that I'm advising to understand the contract. And I'll flag things, and what about this? And I've never seen this before. And wait a second, your business doesn't allow this. We have to change this. And flag things from a legal perspective, rather than a planning perspective. That's my favorite part. It's just, it's hard, it's a hard thing. Because do you understand what a contract is? Is this a valid contract? I mean, you really want to, the most asshole answer I can give you is you want to understand this contract? Great. Let me do a quick program for you. It's going to be a 3-year law degree program. And there's an articling afterwards, cram in, a half decade. And I think you'll probably get it, and it's there's too much of a knowledge barrier. And that's where the counsel part is better. They trust you. Justin, here's the keys to the contract. And I'll just call out 1 or 2 things and say, hey, Martin, they're demanding that you agree to this clause. It's not normally when we agree to your decision. What do you want? And I'll narrow it down because I know all the other stuff. And you got to trust me that I'll take care of you on that stuff. And I'll bring the stuff that only, and that to me is the problem. That's what lawyers should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard and it's time consuming. And sometimes you maybe embarrass clients because maybe they feel that they should know and nobody likes being told they're wrong. Especially when you look at a contract and say, unlike a real estate agent, I get paid whether the deal goes through or not. I have no incentive to be deceitful, or I'm not saying real estate agents are deceitful.
Yeah.
But my intention is to give you good advice, and I'm being paid for that. I'm not paid to close the deal. Yeah, that's part of what I'll do, but I'm paid to make sure you get what you bargained for. And that's why lawyers are deal killers, because the CEOs, no offense to CEOs are really good at what they do. But what they're not really good is about getting into the nitty-gritty details about something. They're good at making the deal happen. They got these people together in the room.
Hallelujah. So I'll get the editors to put a halo over you just to put this glow, right? See, wow, there's a learning there. There's a lesson there. CEOs are good at bringing everybody together, but not good at the nitty-gritty kind of stuff. Oh, I'll blow little hearts on I'll ask the other team. Kisses for Justin on this one. But hey, that is absolutely true. And a lot of people forget that planning is doing. And they don't want to say, oh, I'm planning. I'm not getting stuff done. Far from it. So I'm bringing that back to positive pessimism. What do I want? Where can things go wrong? And how can my counsel help me navigate these troubled waters? How do I make sure that we facilitate this deal and we elevate this deal without crushing the opponent and being crushed in the process? I think that's, if I want to apply positive pessimism in what we're saying right here. So that's good. So tell me, what is one piece of advice? How do you tip somebody over to going from a mindset of I don't trust lawyers to trusting lawyers? How do you influence? How do you facilitate? What can we say to the CEOs that are listening to say, okay, here, ask this of your counsel, or hey, look for this behavior or that behavior? What do you think?
I that's a great question. And if I had a great answer, I think I'd probably be a much more successul lawyer, get more client.
You're a partner now. Look at you.
But when I look at how we get clients, well, we're pretty much at capacity at the moment. We're growing, we're probably going to hiring and things like that, which is great. But how we get clients, generally people don't, especially in our practice, business, investments, real estate planning, things like that, not going to court.
Yeah.
Practice. Generally people see a lawyer for a few reasons that I've identified. One is they're told to see a lawyer. Somebody they already trust tells them to see a lawyer. An accountant, a family member, a friend, you should see a lawyer on that. my cousin. I jokingly call it Reader's Digest law. A friend of mine said that you should do this thing. I've heard taxes, and they don't understand, but that brings them in. So I think I should get some advice. That's not as common as the other one, pardon my language, the fuck up. Somebody, that's often what we see is rarely do we get a brand new company. The founders have never been involved in business before, and they're starting their first company, and they come get a lawyer, and we structure it a certain way, and we put that happens, but it's exceedingly rare. And most of the time it happens when I talk to these people and get to know them, it's maybe their uncle was a lawyer or a friend. It goes that somebody told them to. Most of the time, I get good clients because their previous lawyers screwed up, and they heard a reputational thing. Hey, these guys, they're a bit of a suburb, but they have a unique, focused, high power business practice, which check them out. Don't see us for immigration work. We don't touch. We kind of focus on an area. But in terms of maybe to rephrase your question, I think it's a good lawyer should train their client how to get the most value out of the lawyer. That's what I want people to do. And I modify my practice just like I modify my personality based on who I'm working with. I don't believe that as being dishonest. I believe that as being practical, and being real. Some clients get a side of my personality to show that I don't show with, and that acts for my law practice as well.
Yeah. Oh, good. So then next question is, okay, I've started my relationship. Okay. So I've come to my legal counsel. He's drafted my contract, right? So I've got a contract with, what's the best way to keep the relationship? Is it touch base? Do you outreach? What should a CEO do? Should they go month to month? Should they go on a quarterly basis? Should they go just on jobs? What's your opinion on keeping a good relationship with your clients? Or vice versa, what should CEOs do to ensure that they are a positively pessimist?
Well, one, I think be pessimistic. I think a lot of the reason people don't get a lawyer is because they're optimistic. I don't need that, or people get into business. I say get into bed, but what do you mean get into business with each other?
Yeah.
There's that trope that, getting out of a business relationship is harder than getting out of a marriage. And I believe that to be true, in a corporation or something. And that's the problem. I think, speculating, that their optimism that, hey, Martin's my buddy, everything's going to be fine. That optimism is synonymous with ignorance. They're being ignorant to the fact that things happen. It's easier to example, a cohabitation agreement, for example, two young spouses or a young couple getting together. And, like I said, I used to practice family law. So I do it from time to time for my business clients because there's no separation between family and anything else. Businesses, family businesses, it's important for me to know family law as well. But it's hard. It's a hard sell. If you had to, if maybe generalized example, heterosexual general example, male comes to me, male is the higher income earner, owns the business, and the spouse isn't. And the male approaches me, I am his lawyer, not for the both of them, but just for him, and I draft this agreement. What's her incentive to sign it? What he's coming at it from a pessimist perspective. What if things go wrong? Her perspective is coming at it from an optimist perspective. And this is a gross simplification,
of course.
I love you. What could go wrong? And the example that I would say to my male client to try to, convince her to go get her own lawyer and move forward with this is like, it's a stupid half-true story about somebody I knew who got in a car accident and had some brain damage, and their personality changed quite drastically. And so, the idea is, and this is going into some deep philosophy here, but is this person you're contracting with, family law or business or whatever, who are they? And I believe that I don't really know who I am, and who I am changes year to year, month to month. And so if I accept that I am a fluid person, growing and learning and not static. And I accept that all other people are as well. how do I get into a long-term relationship with you if I understand that the person who I think you are probably isn't who you are, and you will likely change? Well, maybe let's identify the big important things, right? In a family law agreement, it could be value of property. In a contract, it could be something else. Let's identify the things that, regardless of who you are and how you treat me, I want and I care about. So that's being a pessimist. What
That
happens,
is true. Yeah, absolutely.
okay, what
yeah.
happens if you die? What happens if I divorce my spouse? And I don't know if anybody has sat down with their spouse and say, what would happen if we divorced? What people don't talk, I do. My spouse is not, she married me, so she gets who I am. But in my mind, it's always important to entertain things that you are icky and you don't want to entertain. Just like getting a will. You don't get a will because you expect to live forever. You get a will because you kind of are faced with the realization that if I die, who's going to look after my kids? And by the way, people hate getting the wills.
Oh, speaking of which, we have to redo our wills.
Oh. So I just, in these cases, I think focusing on the negative has a greater net benefit. And even if none of these negative things arise, the hesitation to be negative, I feel, is because people view it as a bad thing. And, this pursuit of happiness, they view anything other than trying to be happy as not a good thing. And it's a whole different podcast on what the heck is happiness.
Tell me about it. Tell me, you Stoicism 101, right?
Yeah.
Malefica. Oh, damn it. I forget. Malefica. Anyways, think about all the bad things that will happen throughout the day so that you're not surprised or disappointed with. It's just
That's the one.
Malefica.
I can't remember where I heard this. Somebody, it might have been a podcast I listened to or a friend, but they were talking about happiness and why it's fictitious and possibly leads you to greater unhappiness. It kind of falls into my pessimism thing. And the example they use is your surgeon. Do you want your surgeon? Describe, if you surveyed 100 people and said, describe the mood of your surgeon when operating on your heart.
Okay, well, hold on a second. Hold on. Let me answer that. Let's see what happens. Okay, so ask me a question. Let's do some role play.
Give me a couple words to describe what headspace or mood or emotion you want your surgeon to be during your open heart surgery.
Okay, so I just had my hip replaced last year.
Oh, you go. So for your hip replacement.
Yeah, so I'm going for a second one this coming spring or whatever it happens. So how do I want him to in what mind state would I want him to be? Right? So I want him to be focused. That's number one. I want him to be well rested, because does well rested count or?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
It's open-ended.
Yeah. Okay. So I want him to be well rested, focused, caffeinated enough, but not too caffeinated.
Yeah, not jittery, right?
In a good headspace. And what I mean by that is that,
his wife didn't scream at him on the way out the door.
Correct. So in a good headspace. So, maybe his daughter's having an issue or his son's having an issue. Yeah, those are kind of the top ones that I would be.
Didn't hear happy.
I did not say happy.
I didn't hear happy. I didn't hear optimistic.
I didn't say optimistic. Yeah.
So if we value these things, but yet we don't want them for something as important as a heart or a hip surgery. Wait a second. Is there a value misalignment here? If happiness was so great, wouldn't you want everyone to be happy? No, you don't. You don't want your surgeon to be happy. You don't want your surgeon to be optimistic. You want your surgeon to think, oh, I shouldn't sever that blood vessel. I should avoid that. And this could go wrong. I got to do that. You want him to be focused. You want him to be almost have a level of intensity.
Yeah.
And maybe the most positive attribute is passion for the work. But I could take it or leave. I don't care if you love what you're doing, just do a good job. But the same thing goes to a lawyer or a CEO in a way. I would love it if a CEO of a big company was happy, sure. But I also want them to be impactful, and I want them to be, effectual and amicable, maybe not amicable, but go deep. Happiness to me is an undefined buzzword that is like saying, end of story in an argument. Nope, done. You're like, oh, okay. Can we maybe dive into the details a little bit more? Like happy. Nope. What do you mean by that? To me, happiness is, to summarize, it's a fleeting feeling. and we should be striving for something a little more nuanced in what we want.
Damn. The lawyer's talking about emotions and happiness. This is awesome. But it connects, man. The good job on connecting.
In my mind, at least. Maybe I smoke too much pot and these things. I've crossed some wires, but and it ties into the lawyering thing again. I mean, if we play the same game and said, if I'm role playing as Martin, Justin, I got a $5 million exit on a little company. This is great. It's more than we wanted, in that, as the hip surgery example, I am happy for you, but I don't think you would say, what are the attributes I want out of my lawyer right now is to be happy. You probably want them to start really thinking about, Justin, what are all the ways I can make sure this deal goes through? What are all the ways it could go wrong is a better way of saying that. Let's plug those holes.
I want you to be well rested, somewhat caffeinated, focused. Hey, it's a hip or $5 million. Like, ooh, there's a.
I think an interesting detail here, because I've had similar conversation before, is I don't want to say not fun, right? Just because I'm not. I like to think I'm a fun person. You are. And I like to think I have periods of happiness, but they're like the rain. They come and they go, and I have no control over that. And and maybe I do. I just haven't found how to do it yet. But just days I'm happier than others, and I shouldn't let that impact me in any way.
In your performance, absolutely.
In the performance,
yeah, exactly. And same thing, performance of a contract, right? So a lot of people forget that a contract is just a description of how you will operate. It's how do we measure and how do we agree on things that are going to move forward. From the time that we sign this contract, we agree to do. And that's what a lot of people forget is, and this is another example of translating vision into frontline operations or strategy into frontline operations. The contract is there to dictate the path or the direction that you're going to take, and the actions and the behaviors. So systems are great, but without the behaviors, they're nothing. Behaviors without a system are archaic. I say this almost every podcast. Japanese have a saying that says, vision without action is a dream. Action without vision is a nightmare.
I've not heard that. I like that.
Yeah. So back to happiness and love. I asked my kids, and they said, Dad, I love you, bedtime. And I said, I love you. And I said, what do I do that makes you say that you love me? Well, you're nice to me. Okay. So define what nice is. So I force my kids continuously to analyze behaviors and situations. Well, you know what, Dad, you spend time, sometimes you're working from home, you'll cut your meeting in and, we'll go for a bike ride, or, after dinner, you vote for me when mommy says no screen time, we'll play rugby on the Switch, right? So you'll vote for me to play and you'll convince mommy that we can have screen time even during the week when there's school. So it's important to define the actions that the contract does, but also emotionally. I'm a big advocate of think, feel, do. And too many times people leave the emotions are there. You cannot control your emotions. You cannot. What you do is you acknowledge your emotions like advisors, because I want to kind of bring it full circle, is just say, okay, we think and we put a lot of assumptions. We put our education, we put our experience, we put assumptions. If you see a bear in the wild, the first thing is your heart's going to start pounding, right? There's a chemical reaction that's going to happen. Your thinking process goes out the window. Feelings are a derivative of a chemical reaction. Acknowledge the chemical reaction and then kick it back into the thinking. Say, is this the right thing to do? Is running away from the bear the right thing to do? In Vancouver, it is not. In Banff with a grizzly, it is. And even if you run, you might not even make it. So to Justin's point, don't let, no matter how exciting the deal is or how much you think you fucked up, seek counsel and say, okay, how do we work this through? Let's be pessimist about this. What's the worst that can happen? And let's work our way to making sure that we do everything we can so that it's not the worst case scenario. I think that sums it up a little bit, right?
Yes, it does. It reminds me of a book that I started but never finished. It was okay. I think it was called The 48 Laws of Power or something like that.
48.
And it was, it's quite a thick book. I'm a big nonfiction guy because I don't know, I just never learned to love fiction. And it goes through these laws of how to, I'm doing a terrible job of explaining it, but how to get power in structures, power in life, power in business. And then it gives you kind of a short maxim of something, tells you where it came from, Machiavelli, Napoleon or something, some other historical figures. And then it will give examples of how this was used in history, historical examples. And then it'll also give you the opposite viewpoint of why sometimes it doesn't work or it can backfire. And I really love that concept. And so in that spirit, the counterpoint of positive pessimism is, the idea of the power of positive thinking. Simon Sinek, I'm probably saying that name wrong. Yeah, he's big into this optimist mindset. I mean, dive into the details. Sure, maybe there's some value there. Absolutely, I'm not trying to throw it away. But if you ascribe to, I can't remember the exact word, but like visualizing something in your head to manifest that or to make it real. I've had clients tell me this before. If I'm so focused on the negative, won't that happen? Right. So if you believe that, if you believe that, then this philosophy of positive pessimism can backfire. Because and I've had that from some people. What about this? What about that? And clients say, "Gosh, you're negative. Like, can't you just be happy for me?"
If I put bad energy out there, then
bad energy.
Karma,
So you on your thing, I wrote it down. You said the think, feel, do. I haven't heard that before, and I really like that. And to me, my role falls into the feel. Because what I would love people to do is to truly listen to that emotion they're feeling on that deal. I'm loving, I'm excited about it, and treat me as the little angel or devil, I'm undecided which one I am, on your shoulder, whispering into your ear other things to feel the legal world. And people don't think of it this way, but I got my head so far up my ass when it comes to law. Like, I play a game with friends when we're having some drinks on like, name a topic, anything, name a thing. And I will see if I can find a way to relate the legal system or laws to that thing under the guise of saying the law applies to everything, whether the law knows it or not. So the law touches upon everything in life. And so something a good lawyer has to tell you is viewing it from a legal perspective. That's it. You can be hopeful and happy and optimistic on a deal, but your pessimistic lawyer it's not a reality check. He's just saying, or she's just saying that this is how I would translate that into legal terms. And these are the implications of that. Consider it. Just like you should consider why you're so excited about this deal. Just like you should consider why you have a weird feeling about that guy.
That's a big one.
That this is not the best way to structure it, or there's some red flags the lawyer's saying, I don't know. I think the lawyer's wrong because it's a great deal. I would follow the pessimist and say, in that case, let's contract for that risk. There's a little bit of uncertainty. We've identified it. Let's manage it. Let's figure out exactly what it is and who's going to wear it. And more often than not, Martin, clients don't want it. They're afraid bringing up an issue might sidetrack the issue. It ties into lawyers killing deals.
Jeopardize the deal. Yeah.
By way of a terrible example, I was negotiating a contract a while ago about, distribution territory, and it involved China. And just that was one of the territories that we're carving out in this contract. And I raised this to the client because I knew the client had contacts in Taiwan, and saying, what do you mean by China? And now I don't have this in top memory. I did the research for this project. So it's like, do you mean the People's Republic of China being communist mainland China? Or do you mean the Republic of China being the exiled government of Taiwan that's only recognized by 14 countries, but they issue passports? They were in the UN, they were expelled. Do you want to carve out Taiwan? Now, all of a sudden, I'm over lawyering and over complicating, but in my opinion, it's like, well, that is a valid question to ask you. You said the word China, but there's multiple interpretations. What about Hong Kong? What about Macau? Tibet? Is that included in, what about, not that it's included, but like the South China Sea, and what are the extensions of that? Do you mean, how are we defining international water border? And it goes on and on, because there's no black or white. It's never ending. And sometimes you just got to put a plug in it.
Say enough, Justin. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's true. Like, it's important to go through, like, one of the brand promise that I tell everybody else, is, what does Martin do? Ignite curiosity, crystallize thinking, and concentrate action, right? So ignite curiosity. Oh, well, that's just it. What is China, right? So then you can crystallize your thinking and concentrate your action after that, in that legal term. So we had, with Mark Raffin on Negotiations Ninja, there was I can't remember off the top of my head. He said there was an individual who's well known to make you feel good during the contract, the signing. He says, yeah, you want $5 million? I'll give you $5 million. You want 6? I'll give you 6. Well known to give everybody what they wanted up front, and absolutely destroyed everybody on terms and conditions.
Oh yeah. It's my job.
So for that, that's kind of the warning about, positive pessimism. Think a little bit further down the line, analyze the situation, look at every aspect of it. There's nothing wrong with that, in being a little bit, I don't want to say doubtful, I'd say cautious and
objective is how I would word that, Martin.
Absolutely.
At some point, how many leases have you read? Well, this is my first lease I've ever read. Do you think, is the first time you did anything, were you really good at it?
True.
Yeah. It's okay to, like business coaches. I have clients that laugh at business coaches. Oh, I don't need that. But my line is always like, why do gold medal athletes still have coaches? Come on, like, figure it out. Know what you don't know. That's the only thing university taught me in hindsight. It didn't teach me any facts. It taught me how to learn their way. And it taught me that I don't know anything. And law was very good at that, teaching me, you're saying, like, ignite curiosity in these things, and tying it into this meet in the middle, this pessimism thing. I like to just try to take every sentence and figure out, what is the most worst way this could be interpreted against me? Because every word has multiple meanings. I mean, that's why the concept of a thesaurus or, dictionaries exist. And so, just like that's the China example. What do you mean? Let's drill into it. And I think that has to come from a pessimistic mindset rather than I think they'll try. I know what they mean.
Assumption kills in the army. Assumption kills. Oh, there's no landmines there. Kaboosh. Oh my goodness, we could go on for hours and hours. Justin, 2 more questions.
Please.
What's the one piece of reference? So let's talk about CEOs, and we're talking about positive pessimism. What's the one piece of reference, document, podcast, book that you would recommend for the listeners and the people who are watching that kind of covers or talks about negotiations, or kind of puts a dark spin on things, to use the word dark spin?
I don't know. That's a tough answer, or it's a tough question to give an answer to, Martin. In terms of like resources that I could direct people to,
go ahead.
I don't really read much in terms of these things. I read.
You read for a living.
I read a lot of contracts, and so I'm probably not the best person to give that answer, because I would say, well, just read a lot of contracts, close a lot of deals, and you learn. Personally, where I get the biggest scare is something that I call the Discipline Digest. And it's a publication by the Law Society, and they regulate lawyers in British Columbia. And it's public. They email it to us. It's just a digest of all the disciplinary actions taken against lawyers by the Law Society, and their names and what they did, and their fines or the disbarment or the suspension. And it's a public shaming tool, in my opinion. And I read it all the time. For 2 reasons. One, I want to see if anybody knows in there, because I'm snoopy. And 2, and then I can call them and make fun of them if they're a friend. And 2 is is that's how you learn not to screw up. What did this guy do? Oh, shoot. He had to pay $20,000 of his own money to the Law Society, and he was suspended for 6 months. What did he do? Oh, he didn't check ID before he put money in his trust account. Shit. I better start being a little more pessimistic and thinking about what could happen here. Man, I can be fined personally if I don't scan somebody's ID properly. I got to slow down. But in terms of a resource for a CEO, that's probably less valuable other than reading maybe the Securities Commission does something similar. If you're big into trading securities, you can go read how other people screwed up and how to learn from other people's mistakes. To me, that's mentorship.
That
values accelerate me.
That is great. That is a great piece of advice. There are a couple of things. Read the goddamn contract. Justin just said he does this for a living. You're in there. Read the goddamn contract.
You know what? And not only read it, I'm not going to say understand it, but highlight, tag, flag, be honest with your lawyer. I don't know what the fuck this means. I get that all the time. Those are my favorite clients. Oh, this fucking pretentious, $10 word here. What is this? What is this word? And you gotta because acknowledging what you don't know is the right thing. Because then I can say, oh, okay, I just assumed you understood what this was.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna assume an unreasonably high level of base knowledge for people.
Mm-hmm.
I can't not.
Yes, true. So read the goddamn contract. Number one. Number two, read other situations or research other situations that you are going to embark in. So look it up. If you're constantly looking at businesses or you're CEO and you have to do contracts or you have to deal with co-manufacturers or vendors and they're putting contracts and NDAs in front of you, make sure that you read it. Even though I say, oh, yeah, that's IP. I get it. Well, hold on a second. Take the time to read it. It's worth the time. Okay. They say leaders are readers. Yet. Okay. It drives me absolutely bonkers. It tells me all these CEOs that read and all that good stuff. If you want to be a good CEO, you got to read this, and CEOs read this many books per. And how many CEOs don't read the contracts that they're signing? Absolutely despicable. Anyways, with that being said, Justin, how do people get a hold of you?
Well, you know what? Email, phone. So we can check out our website, Golbey.com, Golbey. Might change soon, so I'll put an auto redirect on that one. And shoot me an email. I don't know if you put the particulars up, but Justin@Golbey.com. And I try to make myself available because on the pessimistic thing, I always, I talked about how lawyers get clients. And one of the things I mentioned was the past lawyers screwed up. I asked them how did that lawyer screw up? What did this person who is the same career as me do to make you say, fuck you, and you picked your bags up and you came over here and you severed a 10-year relationship? And the answer more often than not is I could never get a hold of them. It was hard. It took me a week to turn a call. And so I have clients all the time say, oh, you sound stressed, Justin, because I am. I got to get that in wraps. But it's kind of just like, hello, and they're like, oh, hi. I'm like, oh, sorry. I'm going to slam this week, but there's so much value in emailing somebody or returning a call to say, I'm getting back to you. I haven't looked at that email yet, but know that I got it. I'm slated. I'll turn my mind to it on Tuesday. Send that out. I didn't realize how valuable that is and how few lawyers do things like that. Most lawyers, so I'm told from these clients that fire them, is they just get ignored for multiple weeks and then get an email later. But I think most people want to send an email to their lawyer, and I tell people I try 1 business day turnaround time for all communications. I think I'm less than that. I think I'm a couple hours, even if it's just Bing. But you're probably calling me out on that publicly now.
No, it's true. It's true. Well, hold on a second. There was this time, Justin. There was this one time. Couple of things from this. Relationships are key. Legal counsel over lawyer. Transformational over transactional. Couple of that. Read, okay? Learn from other people's mistakes. Make sure that you facilitate and elevate. Make sure that you understand the relationship and give your legal counsel directions and goals. So many things, so many lessons from today. So thank you very much, Justin. It's always a pleasure. This one was good chit chat back and forth. We might put another one on. So appreciate your time, Justin. Thank you very much.
Martin, I got to say, I've had many conversations with you, but not this format. And I am pleasantly surprised. Because again, I'm coming in with a pessimistic mindset. I'm not going to set a high expectation, but I have found that what you just did, your paraphrasing and your summary of what I was trying to get across, you worded it better than I did. And I don't know if you noticed, I was taking some notes because you were saying some things, and I was like, man, that was more aptly summarized than what I said. And I'm pleasantly surprised.
So you're going to give me a job as a lawyer? Give me a job. Say, can I come in as a junior?
You can be my junior. You can be my contract monkey.
With that being said, everybody, thank you very much, Justin, for being here. Justin at Golbey.com, correct? All right. I'm Martin Hunter. I am the host of What CEOs Talk About, where we translate strategies into frontline operations. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks for tuning in to What CEOs Talk About. Make sure to click subscribe to get notified about future episodes, or check us out at www.whatceostalkabout.com.